We are
well,
on.
live. Good morning,
Good.
friends. It's noon Eastern U.S. time on Thursday, March 4th, and we're very happy to welcome you to our weekly Thriving Thursday interview where we chat with a beautiful health-minded soul about what's important to all of us, which is keeping healthy, staying healthy, going through life healthy. So we're very happy to have you. Thanks for jumping on. We'll be here for about 20 minutes, not take a large chunk of your time, and I hope you can stay with us.
Our guest today is Nikki Elsing, and Nikki is a proud mom of 2 teenage kids, live in Preston, and she's a registered dietitian. She lives in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. She's going to be speaking to us today about cellular activation, and you're going to learn about that. She's also going to discuss ideas about how we can take control of our health, how we can boost our immune system, and really play an active part in prevention in our health strategy. And just previously to Nikki and I and Dawn all knowing each other, she worked within a cardiovascular hospital as an outpatient dietitian and media spokesperson. She's worked with a variety of patients. She's specialized in supplements and cardiovascular prevention and treatment, weight loss, diabetes management, and metabolic syndrome, while just doing extensive media and marketing work, and also developed patient materials and wrote cookbooks for the hospital. So Nikki, just tell us a little bit about you and, why this journey of prevention and cellular activation, is just such a big part of your life strategy and lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Welcome.
Well, thank you, Mia, so much. Thank you, Don. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so excited for everybody hopping on and joining us. When I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying, I just look back and think of, so many different health conditions and so many things that kind of come up in our lives that sometimes we kind of take for granted that we just have to put up with them. And it's just fun to know that there's things that we can change, that, we're in control of that. And that's such a fun way to look at health and wellness. I know that sometimes people get a little concerned that it's out of their hands and out of their control, and it gives them some anxiety and stress and worry. And really, when you think on the aspect of prevention and wellness, which has been my main passion for years, that's where it's at, and really understanding more about this activation that we'll talk about today. And I'm excited to kind of give you just an idea about, when we're 18 or 16, and then when we're 30, and then when we're 40 and 50, and we just keep getting older, right? And things just don't necessarily work in the way that they did. Obviously, we all know that, when we were 20, right? And so what do we do about it? How do we age gracefully, like you guys said? How do we make a difference? And how do we know that we're doing kind of getting the best bang for our buck, if that makes sense, or putting our focus and our thoughts in the right direction? And so, you guys, as you can imagine, working in that environment in cardiovascular care, there's a lot of very stressful events, right? People are really, really sick. But then also working in media and marketing and talking to people that way, there's just a lot of people that are into prevention. But I feel like, right now, people are really focused on prevention. And I don't know if it's because I'm getting older or what, but I know that it's a huge thing for me too, and as we age, we just really think about it. And as we have kids, we think about their health, and it's just really trying to do the most that we can. So I'm excited to go ahead and tell you guys about 3 different kind of strategies of aging. And there's a lot of theories on aging. And today we'll talk about 3 different ones. Do you want me to go ahead and go into
Well, I just, there's something you said earlier on that could kind of pique the curiosity and make one listen. Something about we can kind of take charge of our own biology, and we don't have to be stuck with what ailed your grandfather, your dad, whatever. I know that I come from a family where on my dad's side, there was a history of illness, and 3 of my beloved family members, including my dad, passed away from it. And so you're saying that we can actually do things to change that history going forward.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry to hear about that, but I'm really glad that you're taking an active part in your health and just realizing, that you want to make sure you're doing everything for prevention. Um, yeah, and that's the thing is I feel like sometimes that's an easy way out is just to say, well, my dad had it and my grandpa had it. I'm kind of it's just the way it is. It's a matter of time. And a lot of people feel that way. And yeah, research is showing, that our environment that we're in, our lifestyle habits, our nutrition habits, what we're putting into our body, what we're getting out of our body, all of that stuff plays such a huge role in that. So absolutely 100%, you have the ability to modify those things.
That's
Sure.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, to talk to us about how.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
Wow,
like the
and
first
how?
20 years of our lives, we're like infallible. We can do anything. And then,
I know, right? And then later you're like, ooh, why does it hurt a little bit when I get out of the car? Or it's tough getting my shoes on, or I get these headaches and whatever. It's just all these different things that kind of accumulate. So, yeah. So, one of the things that's my favorite thing, and this is something that I literally talked until I was blue in the face as a cardiovascular dietitian. I always talked about inflammation, and you guys know how big a deal that is. And I also talked about oxidative stress. And I don't know if you guys remember, like, excuse me, back in the day, maybe 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, maybe if I'm aging myself, when everybody was, hold on, I have my planner here and I need to move it because I keep looking down. It's distracting me. But people were, remember, like when everybody was trying to never eat any fat and they're all chasing this SnackWell's truck, right? And they're going after all these fat-free things and fat-free this and fat-free that. And then you look at the evolution of don't use margarine or only use margarine. And then now don't use margarine, use butter, and everything just accumulates and changes, right? And that's the thing that we need to know. We need to be in the mindset that everything like that changes and adapts as more research comes out and there's more that we can do. And when I was talking as in cardiovascular nutrition, inflammation and oxidative stress is, looking at trans fats. Remember trans fats?
Mm-hmm.
And they started putting them on the label. And then they're like, oh my gosh, you can't eat anything with partially hydrogenated, any type of fat in there, right? Because that's dangerous, because we knew that it goes around and causes problems for us. And so that's not a good thing. And so the problem is, as we eliminate some of those things, they still have to put stuff in there to make it taste good. And who's to say that in 15 to 20 years, they're not going to go, Don, Mia, you should never have been eating those because what they replace trans fats with, may be causing this or being worse or whatever.
Right.
So we just want to think, if I would tell you generally, we want to think outside the box, outside the package. We want to think of whole natural stuff. So that's first of all, Dawn, when you're looking at it and you said, how do you do this? You just eat better, you move your body more, you get more sleep, and you do whatever you can to find out more about it. But the other thing that we want to look at is we want to talk about activation. Because, as a dietitian in the past, my thing was, people have nutrient needs and it's across the spectrum. And I'm kind of guessing, right, from years ago, giving them kind of a, the range for vitamin C is from here to here, so I'll go here, and everybody's so different, right? And so coming up with a plan for people is supplementation. You're coming up with kind of different supplements and trying to hit on that and what you think would be best. And a lot of times people take a multivitamin, right? And they guess that and go, yeah, that works. But that's supplementation, and you're hoping you're filling in the blanks. But what if there was a chance to be able to say, hey, what if your body had a chance to go, you know what? I know what I need. I have this miracle of a body that's just getting overwhelmed by yuck stuff from all these years. What if I set down how much of that yuck stuff, right? And had that chance to have my body be activated so we could figure out what I need and what I didn't need. How cool is that?
This word you're using, activated.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it's necessarily clear what that means. Activate
Right.
the body. Can you talk about that? What does that mean?
Sure. So, looking at different pathways. So when we're talking about pathways of aging, the three that I want to hit on are going to be that sirtuin pathway, a mitochondrial pathway with NRF1, and NRF2 pathway. And in each one of these, when you take an appropriate amount of like certain supplement type of products, I'm losing my word I'm trying to pick, they work within your body to be able to activate these pathways or flip a switch on these pathways. Maybe that's kind of an easier way to think about it, like turning on a light switch in your body. And then your body goes, oh, hey, I know how to do this. I used to do this really good, you know, back when I was 15, 20 years old. And then they're able to, you know, go against these different theories of aging and do what it's supposed to. So Don, think of activate like flipping a switch, turning it on, basically the way it used to be when you were younger. So not doing anything weird, like anything that your body shouldn't be doing, or wearing out something, or don't think of it in that sense. Think of it as flipping that switch. So like a thermostat, you know, when things are not so good or it's cold, the thermostat kicks on. That's what I'm talking about.
So you're turning something on in the body that may have turned off over the course of time.
Right. Or turned down, you know, and just not as good, and kind of getting a clouded vision of when it's supposed to be on because of exposure, injuries, maybe daily habits, the stuff that we're surrounded with all the time that unfortunately we do our best we can. But I mean, heck, us doing this and me having my phone here, I mean, we're all just kind of getting this different thing. So
this technology world that we live in, you know, it's
right.
the environment, it's everything. It's everything. Right. It's by breathing, we're exposed. So how can we stack the deck in our favor, so to speak?
Right. And so one of those big critical ones that I would point out first is that oxidative stress. That's the one thing. And I was mentioning about trans fats and all of that. And that's what's damaging cells. It's kind of bumping around in your body and causing problems.
Let's say that again. What is that?
Oxidative
stress. That's not necessarily a term that everybody knows, I think. What?
It's kind of like the troublemaker in the family, the troublemaker in school. Kind of, Dawn, you're probably the troublemaker at home a little bit to Mia, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe it's the other way around. I don't know.
We're live on Facebook.
I'm telling secrets here. But, you know, what happens is it's kind of that oxidative stress is that initial kind of trigger for stuff to not go right. It's something that it's kind of like rusting from the inside out. You know, we're doing good in here and we don't see a lot, you know, and then all of a sudden we're just kind of feeling the effects. And that's kind of that trigger. And all of us have oxidative stress. It's from like the things I mentioned, eating, breathing, I mean, digesting your food, working out, you're breathing a lot more, causes more oxidative stress, which isn't bad. But if your body can't get a grip on it, and you know, and you're having all of this, or it's tremendous amount, that's when we have these issues. And we know that oxidative stress contributes to aging. So one of the things you want to focus on is decreasing that oxidative stress. And that's through that NRF2 pathway. A great way to activate that is through supplementation, or activation, I mean. Supplementation in the sense of choosing a healthy diet, thinking along that line, if you want to think of that like that.
Eating clean.
The Mediterranean diet I've taught for years, and still to this day, it's like the number one to be looking at. But the reason why I like it is so much research shows that it's so good for health protection and prevention. So that's a really big thing. But that also, following a more of a Mediterranean diet, can also activate that NRF2 pathway in your body. So that's cool, right? Well, and so being able to flip that switch and looking at that nutrition wise.
So you've used this term NRF2 a few times, and you've talked about pathways. So is this, I assume, since you're talking about like oxidation, oxidative stress, this NRF2 pathway has to do with producing antioxidants that help.
So your body's doing it. Your body's doing it and figuring out what you need. So instead of guessing through supplementation by pills, you know, I look at a healthy diet as a good supplemental type of activity to add into your life. So I don't want to confuse people when I say that. But when you're looking at taking a multivitamin, you're looking at taking antioxidants, you're guessing with activation and this NRF2 activation, you're basically activating your body's own survival mechanisms, but you're also waking it up and going, hey, I'm going to produce these antioxidants because I know Nikki needs these, Don needs these, Mia needs these. And it just kind of goes through and figures it out. I mean, how cool is that? And that's a really important thing. And really the point being with that oxidative stress too, is being able to take so much of that yuck stuff setting it aside, making it so your miracle of a body that you've been given is able to figure it out, because it can do it. It just needs that little bump or that little switch to be able to do that. So that's really big, really big. Make sense?
Yes. So then you also spoke about mitochondria. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Okay, so I laugh because every time I talk about mitochondria, I look back to college. And I remember this one lady that was presenting, and she was always like, it's the log trucks, those log trucks going in, and it's bringing in the fuel for that fire, and looking at mitochondria and your little energy guys, right? And just like how we have more oxidative stress, we also have a decrease in mitochondria over the years. And we notice that. I mean, you feel that, right? You notice that you don't have energy like me hanging out with my teens. Like, geez, I'm like, wow, how do they stay like so busy and it never shows, right? They just have no problem. And I'm like, oh, it's 9:30. I'm ready for bed. But that's the thing, you know, my mitochondria has decreased over time, and they're still just doing just fine. And so one of the things that's kind of interesting is to look up mitochondrial dysfunction, depending on how in depth you guys want to get with this, or how in depth people that are listening want to get into this. They can look that up, and you'll see that mitochondrial dysfunction plays a key role in a lot of debilitating things, you know, as you continue to age. So it's another big issue, right?
Yeah.
And so we want to be able to activate or flip that switch, now that we kind of came up with that terminology, thinking about that and flipping that switch to activate this in your body, this NRF1 pathway, which is another pathway of aging.
Oh, so
right?
that you're saying NRF1. So we have
Yes,
NRF2
so we did,
and
that's right.
NRF1 for mitochondria.
That's right.
Mitochondrial health. Wow. Okay.
That gives us that get up and go. Vroom, vroom,
Yeah,
vroom.
and just being able to kind of sort out the nonsense too, you know, it kind of looks to see like, what do I do with this? Do I fix this mitochondria? Do I throw it away? Do I just make more? You know, there's a whole lot of, it's not just building up all this mitochondria, but a key thing, when you have more energy, you also have more waste, right?
Waste,
And so
yeah.
when you're, so when you're activating and have more energy and more cells producing energy, you want to make sure that you have that NRF2 pathway activated, because that can help sweep out the garbage and take out that trash and kind of do some detoxification, which is an important part of that too. Because, you know, whenever you're busier, you remember that, you know, when you're busy at home, you have more garbage, more people over, you have more garbage, and that's just what happens. And so that's kind of a nice way to think about it.
Yeah.
Wow. And you also mentioned early on another aspect which has to do with something called sirtuins.
Sirtuins, yep.
Sirtuins.
So sirtuins is another, this is kind of weird, but I feel like people probably understand this more in the sense of intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting has been kind of discussed a bunch. I like to do that too. People talk about it quite a bit. And that's one of the things they talk about, is that feeling that you get, or kind of a side effect of some of the intermittent fasting, where they're like, oh, I kind of feel like I just feel better. I have more energy. I just have more good stuff going on, right? And it's also kind of something that people look at for weight loss. So heck, looking at an intermittent fasting Mediterranean type of diet with some activation, pretty cool. So sirtuins is a result of that intermittent fasting. And so there's ways to be able to get that benefit by taking a pill, which is kind of fun, instead of having to pull back on that intermittent fasting. And sometimes people have some significant results with even going that further, but those types of situations have to be medically supervised. So definitely nothing that I'd recommend. But if you would like to do some intermittent fasting and, you know, not eating for 12 to 16 hours and then fitting in what you're eating between about 8 hours, that's nothing wrong with that. And that's a great way to activate some of those sirtuins. And so I like to think of the sirtuin activity there. It's more of an NAD pathway is what we like to call that. So that's another switch. And with NAD, basically, this is kind of like, I always, no offense, Don, but I always call this the mom of the cell. Like the reason why I say that, and I know there are dads that are moms, you know what I mean, but just kind of, so I'm not picking on anyone, but just kind of think about it. The mom, when mom's home, whether that's dad or mom, when they're there, everything's pretty smooth, right? She knows where the weirdest things are in the house. And even if she hasn't seen them forever, you ask her and she's like, oh yeah, it's in that one drawer over here, right? Or she knows what has been done and what hasn't been done, what needs to be done, what needs to be cleaned up, who needs to do what, and she just has it all managed. And then mom's sick or mom's gone and things just don't get done the way they're supposed to. So think of this as we age, mom kind of starts to go away, right? And so our sirtuins and our NAD pathway aren't as active and aren't as good as going, do this, do this, do this, figure this out. Where's that? I got it. It doesn't work as good, right? But
So
when we flip that switch and activate that NAD pathway, then it's like having mom right here. And she's
Wow.
going, hey, look
Yeah.
over here, do this. So it's just
So-
kind of, I like to give little ideas like that. So
Mhm.
it's easy to understand and you can see why it's important, right? Because we have this whole system that we're trying to work.
Mhm.
And if we can make anything easier for that, we win.
It's kind of like that concept of activation. It equates to, the kind of fuel you're going to put in your vehicle that drives you around. You want to be sure that it's good so that everything's running smoothly, right?
Yeah, because of all the components. Absolutely. Absolutely.
We want to respect people's time and keep this tight around the 20 minutes, but we just wanted to ask one question. How does all this kind of upregulating these areas, these pathways you've talked about, does that contribute to immunity? Can you talk just for a moment about immunity before we wrap
Sure.
things up?
I feel like this is a huge part of it. There's a few other components like gut health and those types of things that need to be addressed along with immune system and immune health. But it never hurts to make it so that your body is working to protect you. And that's basically, in a nutshell, really wrapping it up quick since you're talking about with time, that's what we're doing. We're activating pathways in your body, especially that NRF2 pathway, activating that body survival mechanism to be able to figure out what it should do with things. And we know when your immune system isn't working, it doesn't know what to do. It doesn't know to get rid of that bad guy. And sometimes that replicates and just causes a lot of problems. And so most definitely, I would agree 100% that, the food that you eat, the activation of your system, and just really looking forward. And I know that people are going to probably have a bunch of questions that you guys can answer too, but I'd be happy to discuss things further if you needed me also.
Well, it's just such a gift to know about. And I think we all agree that everything aligns better when people are connected to what is innately there within their bodies and their minds and, their heart. Everything works together. And so when you are giving the vehicle what it needs, so to speak,
well, exactly. And one last thing I want to say to Mia is some people are probably not familiar with this stuff, but keep in mind, that's the key component of prevention and key component of wellness. You have to stay cutting edge. Things change, things evolve. And one of the things that's an easy deal to just kind of check, and maybe you guys looked, I didn't look beforehand, maybe you can after, but I've been doing this activation and talking about this for 10 years now outside of the hospital. And what I want to point out is back 10 years ago, there were 86,000 research studies on oxidative stress on pubmed.gov. People can go to this website, and it's where I would go when I do the presentations to medical professionals or whoever. And that's where the research studies are. So just for fun, see the difference. Back 10 years ago, 86,000 studies versus now, I don't know how many there are, but
the last
I know there were,
I think it was over 280.
Okay. So, that's a big improvement, which tells you people are focusing on this. They see that this is a trend that they need to be aware of, and being able to flip those switches is a really, really big, important part of that. So,
and play an active part in prevention.
Yes, I like that. Active with activate. That's a good play on words. I like that.
Nikki Elsing, thank you so much for joining us today. It's really been very informative in some new areas that maybe many haven't thought about. And to those watching, we are sure that you'll have some questions if you've watched this whole live about all of this area of activation. And if you'd like to reach out to us, we'd love to help you get questions answered. You can send us a message right here from our Facebook page. Reach out to us and we'd love to share more with you. So thanks everybody for joining us, and thank you so much, Nikki Elsing.
Thank you, Nikki.
Yes, nice to see you guys. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks
Thank you.
again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, viewers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.